All right, guys, welcome back. This is, I think, episode 18 now of the Fulfilled Veteran Project podcast. And I'm primarily on Rumble. I'm going to introduce or have Brandon introduce himself here shortly. But I'm primarily on Rumble. We're on YouTube as well, just to draw some more eyeballs in. But we're primarily on Rumble, so we can say fuck and stuff like that, because and self-sponsor. That way we're not. I don't give a shit about anybody's feelings. I'm just doing what I do. So, like Dan Bongino says, cutesy time is over. So. So I'm Albert. For those of you who don't know me, and I've got two main menu items. I've got a book coming out too that's I'll talk about too. That deals with both menus that I've got. So two main businesses I have. One of them that I'm most well known for is helping you guys, you veterans out there, with your money, and that's veteran money, not just VA money. And I'm a for-profit, so that allows me to talk about yes, you qualify for 100% like I am. Yes, you qualify for property taxes. Yes, you qualify for your money for your kids in college. Yes, death benefit money, all that stuff. So for you folks that are out there that are not retired, you're worth about $5,000 a month tax-free. And that's just the beginning. If you are retired, even medically retired, you're worth about $7,500. These are basic family of four, by the way. And so you're worth about $7,500 a month tax-free. And so much more. So that's just the tip of the iceberg. Yes, it's your money. Yes, the government's hiding it from you. They hide it in many different places. That's why I mentioned that I'm a for-profit, not a nonprofit, because nonprofits, they can only talk about their lane. They don't know anything about back pay or property taxes. Oh, it's not my lane. Well, it's my fucking lane, and it's your fucking money. Let's go get it. All right. I've actually delivered now over $10 billion, $10 billion. And I'm about to start my sixth year. I hit my 6-year anniversary here soon. So 6 years of doing this, and I've been able to work with Delta, MARSOC, fighter pilots, all that kind of stuff. Anything that's out there, those are my clients. And yes, Joe Average. And yes, somebody who's done just a couple of months in. Yes, everybody. I only work with people I like. So there you go. Got about 3,000 clients that I've worked with, and that's where the $10 billion comes from. And I need you guys to know that's why I'm here. I'm a silent professional, just like you guys are. And I've got a podcast where I'm talking to people like Brandon and many others, and we're just here to talk about what I've got going on, what Brandon's got going on, and how we can reach more veterans and help our true red-blooded Americans that are out there. So that's a great segue, by the way, into the other side of my menu. The other side of my menu is helping you guys build your empires. And that could be a for-profit, nonprofit, could be something small, could be beard oil, could be gigantic. I have people with gigantic ideas out there. They're just billion-dollar ideas ready to get going. And I learned last week on our podcast that, I don't know if Brandon knows this, but when somebody does like camouflage, that stuff is patented. I had no idea. So if you want to do camo on your shirt, that's patented. I had no idea that was a step in the process of that. I've got apparel and stuff like that. I never heard that before. So learn something new every day. But another way for the government to get involved, right? Steal your shit and sell it to somebody else. Well, that's a cool idea. I guess we're the government. We can steal it and sell it to somebody else. So anyhow, but help you guys build your empire. So why is there a book over my left shoulder here, which you're probably seeing? That's a book that's already gone to #1 on Amazon's pre-sale, by the way. And it's called The First 5 Fucks to Give. So yes, veterans and service members and your families and your neighbors, etc. All of you guys out there need to know that the government is stealing your money from you to the tune of, let me piss you off, about $50 billion a month. $50 billion a month. That's pretty gross. So that's why I've got a book, and it's going to be about this size. Like I said, it's gone on pre-sale, already hit #1. This is not the book, but it's going to be a little hip pocket guide, just like this little survival guide. It gets straight to the point, and we're putting the final touches on it right now. We're trying to get an awesome guy out there, gal out there, to do a little write-up for me in the very beginning of it right now, and somebody who's got a bigger community than I do. So we're reaching upwards, and I'm asking some small unit people to do an awesome favor for me. But that way we can reach more veterans. We're getting fucked by our government, guys. And so this little guide's going to help you go, oh, no shit. What's #1 line you think I hear, Brandon? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know. So now I know.
You're probably going to hear a lot from me too.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, that's my soapbox, but make sure you guys are liking, sharing, subscribing, both to me and Brandon, all of our stuff that we got out there. We'll have Brandon's links in here by the time this rolls out. And but yeah, like, share, subscribe, support any way you can. Buy stuff, get stuff, give stuff. Tell somebody, fucking just rattle a goddamn tree until a coconut falls out of it. So I'm gonna sit down and let Brandon introduce himself. So tell us about yourself. Just a quick story, 1 or 2 minutes of what you did in the service and what you're doing now, Brandon.
Yeah. First off, appreciate you having me. Thanks for having me here. I think we're having a good time. Brandon Roberts. I was 5 years Army. Enlisted back in 2005. Did one tour in Iraq, 15 months between 2006 and 2007. I was a human intelligence collector, more commonly known as interrogator. Old 97 Echo. They reclassified that as 35 Mike. Got to do some fun stuff. Was attached to long range surveillance for a little while. Did some field interrogation. Got moved around a little bit. Reorganized into a counter IED interrogation operation where multi-source intelligence, working with Air Force and Navy EOD and all that cool fun shit. After I got out, came back from Iraq, and common story, I was a little bit fucked up. Had some issues with some suicidal thoughts, depression, all that PTS bullshit, and went and talked to somebody. Was not real happy with all that. Kind of got a little bit, maybe a little bit arrogant, talking about it to one of my buddies and saying, I got sucked. I can do better than that. And so he kind of threw down the gauntlet. So, fuck, you can do better. Go do it. And so, all right, got out of the military, went back to school, got the graduate degree, became a licensed therapist, and now do a lot of work specializing with veterans, PTSD, depression, substance abuse, suicidal thoughts. Do a lot of work with vets and law enforcement and first responders. I serve the general community too, because let's just call it what it is. Most of us are pretty resistant to anything that kind of looks and feels like therapy. And if I had to rely only on serving vets, I'd probably starve. There's just not enough people that are comfortable with going and seeking therapy or counseling. We're a little bit gun shy about that stuff. But I do try to get the word out and let them know that there are people out there that understand them, people out there that want to help, and there is relief out there. And so do a lot of work now in private practice, trying to reach out to that community. I've got 4 therapists that work for me now, and looking to take on another one in probably January, trying to expand the online platform, telehealth services, because be able to reach more people that way. But yeah, it's kind of the long and short of what I got going on now.
That's super cool. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And trying to think of a good question. What's your current location? Because I know you guys have like state level, like you and I know this.
So I'm in Texas, down in Southeast Texas, Port Arthur, Beaumont area. So I'm able to practice anywhere in the state of Texas. On the horizon, there's legislation supposedly to allow all practitioners to practice across states, the interstate compact. Lots of states have signed on to it. When all the states do sign on, it'll allow practitioners in Texas to be able to serve people out in Oklahoma, California, wherever, anybody that has signed on to the compact. If you don't know anything about Texas, as far as their legislative system, love Texas in a lot of ways. They're kind of freedom driven, especially back in their kind of creation, back in their sovereign nation. But the way they structured their legislature, because they didn't want too much power in the government, they said, okay, legislature is only going to meet 6 months out of every 2 years. Pretty good system back a couple hundred years back. What it basically ends up doing is only doctors and lawyers and people that can take 6 months off of work. It's the only people that can actually serve in the legislature. Anyway, it kind of bogs down things. And so when people introduce legislation, if it doesn't get passed, now got to wait 2 more years for it to get another look. And so we're looking at probably another year before we can take a look at that compact. And if Texas joins the compact, then I'll be able to serve people outside of the state. But right now we're in kind of holding pattern there. That's going to be a game changer for a lot of vets, because I'm not saying that you have to be a veteran to help another veteran in a clinical sense, but damn if it helps build a rapport, helps them get the trust. And there's just not that many of us. And so if somebody in Missouri or whatever can find somebody in Texas that they trust, that's going to be helpful.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And I appreciate you sharing that with all of us, because it's just to let everybody know too, if you don't know me, that I was in the Army infantry, late 90s, got med boarded out before 9/11, and then 9/11 happened. So then I tried to get back in a couple different ways. And if you don't know the government, they say no first. So they say no a lot, and then you just have to keep asking. And so it took me a couple years to get back in. Actually, 6 year. I had a 6 year break, so I had to finally just get in. I tried to get into 18 X-ray program they just created. Got told no even before getting to that. I got told no in Houston because I'm from Texas actually originally, born in California, but and then raised in Texas, east of Dallas on a ranch. Since we're talking Texas,
Yeah.
now I live in Indiana, so that's a different story. But yeah, then I got told no in Houston for being a Black Hawk pilot to be a warrant officer, and because I didn't finish my degree, and I was like, well, shit, fuck it, I'll just go down to ROTC in Corpus Christi, great small campus down there, and got picked up there, finished my undergrad, which is just a goal of mine, and got picked up for medevac. So I flew medevac over in Afghanistan, and something that most people don't know, and since Brandon and I are going to talk about a lot of medical and just let's say PTS or PTSD, that kind of stuff, is just I was in Afghanistan. I was just talking to my neighbor about this last night. So I was in Afghanistan in 09 and 10, and month one of me being there is what happened in now the movie, The Outpost. So if you guys haven't seen this, Clint Eastwood's son is in it. Orlando Bloom is in it. And it's one of the greatest depictions of just the fuckery of being, because I was infantry dude first, and they just show the very beginning of like, oh, here's the mountains of Afghanistan, and you're at the bottom of the fucking mountains all the way around. It's just ungodly. And so long story short, 8 Americans died that night. I was in charge of medevac. I was a captain. My captain that was above me had food poisoning real bad or something. He was not in the fight, and we were pre-positioning that was in my AO, but it was the very, very far end of it. And what I learned from that night is when you pre-position your aircraft, what that does is as soon as the aircraft land, ground commander has ability to say things, and no, we can't launch. No, we can't launch. So 8 guys died. 2 medals of honor were awarded for that night. One of those guys is now passed away too. I learned a huge fucking lesson at that point. Never let anybody tell you no. So for the rest of my deployment, I didn't fucking listen. And I just turned the fucking radio off or whatever. So you guys can argue against me if you want to, but there are things out there that my team did, and we did all kinds of shit. So you want to know if we saw combat? Yep. And yeah, so I'm a guy who's seen some shit. And I think the worst betrayal is shit like, because one of my new clients from just today, no kidding, is a guy, a Marine who was part of the dare we call it, an exfil, the fucking shit show, like he called it, clusterfuck that was getting out of Afghanistan. And that's so fucking gross, man. That's so fucking gross. And right. I think all of us, no matter what, I did 10 years over a 16-year period. And all of us feel, whether you saw combat, didn't see combat, saw too much combat, not enough combat, whatever, what we all end up, the underlying fucking betrayal is from our government. And I've got a grunt style shirt on right now, but I was down in Destin, Florida a couple weeks back, and I should have bought this shirt. I thought I was going to come back and get it, but it was the one that says, govern me more, said nobody ever. There's so much fucking government, man. And my hope is in the next 5 years or so that like Dan Bongino's in charge of the Homeland Security or whatever, and Brandon's in charge of like healthcare at the high ass level, and guys like me or maybe me is in charge of the VA. And guess what? The number one fucking thing all of us are going to do. Day one, we're going to go, hey, I quit and I'm tearing everything down with me. No fucking government. Let your people take care of minimal government. We have too much fucking government. Let me throw a stat out there at you. I don't know if it's true, but it was on the interweb, so it's got to be true. That somehow, what's his name? Elon Musk comes out and buys up Twitter. Fires a bunch of people or they quit, whatever. He loses a lot of manpower. But yet X now is working probably better than it ever has before, even though he's lost a lot of humans.
Mm-hmm.
So it means we're doing fucking shit, man. So, and you're telling me that like during COVID, another stat that during COVID, that all of these people out of DC that are somebody getting paid by the government, all teachers or not teachers, not but Department of Ed, all of these people getting paid probably about $100,000 each, not showing up, not doing their thing, and now we all know more about this stuff because we're seeing the failures at all different levels. Actually, the client who's a Marine today, he's now a part of Border Patrol. Guess he's telling me, motherfucker, it's just awful down here. I've got Border Patrol. They're my clients. I know Brandon's near Beaumont area. If you guys go to Galveston, you can't throw a rock without hitting some of my clients out there in Galveston Police Department. And yeah, so my number one base for clients is out of Texas. So we're going to talk a lot about Texas and Florida and California today. But I'm just going along with. I'm guessing a lot of my clients would agree with you, Brandon, that most of us are combat guys, and you just can't. Even though there are experts, like do I lean on people, marketers, and do I have people who help with like marriage counseling stuff like that aren't veterans? Of course, you have to. But at the same time, only veterans know veterans. I don't use the word blood, but we've eaten the same fucking mud. we've definitely breathed the same earth, the dirt, or air and dirt, all that kind of stuff, and we just know more about things than anybody else. So
yeah, and everybody wants to relate with somebody that they know their experience, they know where they've been. Even if I'm just calling a HVAC repair guy, if they're a vet, you just feel like you can trust them more. That doesn't mean that every veteran is necessarily top quality guy. We got incompetent people, we got immoral people, but I like my odds a little bit better. If it's a vet, I feel like I've got that starting place that I can build some trust there. Am I right?
I'm glad you got a team already too, because that's what I struggled with for the longest time, and now I've got force multipliers, and I need to have more. I call them onboarders. So I thankfully YouTube and stuff like that, I'm able to get a lot more videos and things like that out there, and books and stuff like that to be able to add to my arsenal. But everybody needs a guy and a guide. So that guide could be, like, I think Brandon's on the right track with having like a guide. Hey man, here's where you're starting out. Here's where you need to be and want to be. Let's check in with each other umpteen times a week or a month or whatever, and just get you going, man. I mean, you have to have, especially male veterans. I mean, I'm one of them. I'd get my ass kicked to get, and I'm 5'6", so don't think anything of me. But I'd get my fucking ass kicked because I'm hard-headed, believe it or not. And like a Ranger client of mine said, that grit's good until it isn't. You may be able to chew through walls, but did you chew through your family in order to get something accomplished for a client? Okay, well, that's not very good. So, but and I think Brandon's going to go beyond this too. What do you think about this? That I feel like I get too much into 5 or 10 years from now. Hey, how can I? There's so many veterans out there that are hurting right there. 200,000 new veterans every single year, regardless. And I'm working with not 200,000 veterans right now. Like, how do I help more? How do I help more? And like a medevac pilot, I couldn't fly every mission. So how do I help more? And I know guys like Brandon and I, we want to be able to help more. There are too many veterans to help. That's for damn sure. And I'm glad, Brandon, you're already starting off with a team, because then you're able to lean on your team, give them a vision, give them a mission, tell them to go fucking execute, make it happen. So you're starting off good. How many years have you been doing this thus far?
8 years. I've been a therapist for 8 years. Did a couple little jobs just to kind of bridge the gap between service. I got out in 10 at college. It takes a few years to get the degrees and education and all that stuff, just so you can get the legal license just to be allowed to do this stuff. So I did some jobs in between. But since I hit the ground running and doing this, it's all I wanted to do. So 8 years doing therapy with clients, most of that working as much as I can with veterans and responders. With what you're talking about, if I piggyback off of that 5-10 years, you use the term or the phrase building an empire. When you're building an empire, you got to look past the first brick. I mean, you got to look down the road. But I think for a lot of us, what we struggle with is trying to balance out these seemingly contradictory terms of contentment and ambition. I have to be able to look at where I'm at and say, all right, I'm happy with this. This is good. I'm enjoying life. I'm enjoying what I'm doing for people. I'm getting fulfillment out of that, but I'm not done yet. It goes all the way back to like day one of basic training when you're digging your first box hole and they're like, okay, you got some downtime, improve your position. You're just sitting around, find some extra cover, some extra concealment. When we look at where we're at, it's just ingrained in us that we need to look for more, do better, find more to do. But at the same time, if you're always looking for something, you never actually experience the fulfillment of what you've done. That balance is really difficult to strike for a lot of people because it does. It almost seems contradictory that if I'm content, I can't be ambitious. And if I'm ambitious, I can't be content. I disagree. I think there's tension in those terms, but I think we can reconcile them.
I'm glad you started off with that because you got to help yourself first. It's just like the airplane. You got to help yourself first. Put the oxygen on yourself. Take care of yourself first. And then once you get certain levels of improvement, or maybe even as you're getting improvement, like even God, I'm going to keep going. The same guy today, he brought up some really great points, and he's like a young dude. He's turning 26 this week. But he was saying that he was like, yeah, let me go through this process and I'm going to tell my family and friends about this. And I said, man, I appreciate you saying that, but go me on this, Brandon, maybe you got something different, but to me, there's three types of personalities out there. So I call them airborne personalities. Some people want to jump early. Others want to jump in the middle. Others want to jump later after everybody else has already jumped. And that's fine. But at least all of them need to know. I think one thing is that they're all in the same aircraft. They all need to know that, hey, Brandon's able to help you with this thing. Albert's able to help you with that thing. And everybody has to go on. If they're all in the same airplane, that means they all got in at the same time. They all had a plan. So I hope that you guys are all out there hearing me and Brandon talk about this, that you need to take care of yourself, but at the same time, you need to share with your buddy that you're getting some care. And maybe that buddy can help you more just by being a sounding board. Hey, yeah, let me know how it's going. I'll introduce me to Brandon, introduce me to Albert. I want to look up their shit and see what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And because there's too few of us that are talking to each other. Too few of them. I'm one of them. I finally did a motorcycle ride this past weekend with like 100 bikes out there, and we were helping veterans, stuff like that. And just I haven't done anything like that in a long time. And because I was just too in my own head. And honestly, by the way, that breakthrough that I had recently was because of dare I call it therapy. I just thought for the longest time, I'm going to get a little spiritual here, but you have to put our Father first, then us, and then our family, and then our work and other things. If you can't put Father first, you got a problem. He's got you first. So even if you think that you're going to go do your own thing and whatever, and I'm as hard-headed as you guys are, man. I went to Florida and I was like, I'm just going to buy a second house down here and it'll be fun. And I'll have my second office from down here because it did make sense for money. But then I'm away from my family, and 4th of July, my birthday is rolling around the corner. And I'm like, fuck, man, I'm missing out on the good stuff, the great stuff, even just every single day. And these are terms that I haven't told anybody, but it's a lot of T's, just for an example of like just being more thankful and being more thoughtful and just taking every day to slow the fuck down and just pray over your meal with your kids. Put some hands together on your family. Mm-hmm. And it would shock you how amazing that is. That the tuning fork that's within you is our Father, and he's working through you. You're just a tool. You're a little meat suit. So just go do fucking good things, man. And that's how I've been able to be protected, and that's why I've gone through a lot more shit than most people, and I'm able to share my stories with you guys and make your life hopefully easier. And that's why I'm having the hard chat with Brandon right now, that therapy is exactly what it is. It's therapeutic. It's a way to realign your fucking shit. And yeah, it's nice. I'm meeting with my people every day, and I've got different accessees and groups and stuff like that, and just being able to talk about stuff that's going on. And because I think they say a stat, they're just throwing this out there. I'm not sure what Brandon's specialty is, but with, let's say marriages, only about 20% of marriages are doing it right. The 20% of them that are doing it right, they still have all the same challenges that you and I have. But what they're doing is they're being a good dance partner, that the husband leads and the wife happily follows because of trust. A couple other words in there, T's, trust. And that's, you should be doing things, another T, together. Not when you sit down at the table, hey, your daughter is blah, 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 and your son is blah, blah, blah. I've got 5 kids. So we've used terms like that. And that's wrong. Like my marriage people say, show me the husband, I'll show you the marriage. And I have failed. I failed in certain things. I thought, but at the same time, I didn't have, all the men in my life are dead. I don't have a dad. My brother's dead. I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I just want to show you, I don't have anybody to lean on. That my granddad's dead. My wife's dad, dead. Never met him. I don't have these patriarchs to go to and go, hey, what should I do here? I don't have them.
But so, you got 5 kids?
Yep.
We got 5 kids too. Yeah, boys?
Yep, 2 of them.
2 boys and 3 girls. Shit, same breakdown. I got 2 boys and 3 girls. You don't have the patriarch that you can go and rely on, lean on, learn from. But you're going out and getting that anywhere that you can get it, so that your boys will have that, right? I mean, we're changing the family tree. It's the intergeneral transmission of what we're trying to build and pass on. I mean, you're completely changing the narrative of your family when you're trying to be that leader, to be that man. And that's what, if your boys are 20 or 30 years from now having a similar conversation to this, they will be able to say, look, I can look at my dad, and when I didn't know what to do to be a man, that's where I looked. You don't have that available to you, but you're making damn sure that they will. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying it that way, because it is, like Dan Bongino talks about, even though it's not his line, he says, be the change that you want. And I'm going to stick on T's for a while, but a lot of us, it's easy for us to be tough. It's easy for us to be tough and on time and shit like that. But it's hard for us to be strong enough to be vulnerable and slow down and just go, you know what? Let me have this moment with my kid. Let me look my kid in the eye. Let me make sure I'm hugging them and putting them in bed and tucking them in and just, I took my son to, my oldest is in college, and or freshman year. So took him to college the other day. Thankfully, he's just an hour down the road, and all that kind of stuff. And just, you have to be communicative and talk through things and let people know. I'm going to go back to T here. In order to be a good leader, you have to be a good teammate first. And we know that about being in the military, and we honestly know it about being, let's say, a man. And when I say we know it, and the reason why I'm going to keep poking myself is because we know it when it's in here. That, hey, if you go to a gym and the gym guy goes, well, if you want a 6-pack abs, you're going to have to stop eating cake all the time. And you go, oh yeah, I need to stop eating cake all the time. Brandon, we're told things and we go, yeah, I know. I need to do that every day. And I've had certain levels of discipline on things. Usually when somebody tells me no, I'm like, okay, not fuck them kind of a thing, but I'm like, yeah, I can. Let me work around this. That I always approach in a positive way. So whatever works for anybody out there that's listening to this, I mean, there's plenty of other people like Goggins or whatever, they would say, hey, run 100 miles and fucking figure it out. I'm not that dude. I'm not a guy. That's fine. If Goggins needs to run 100 miles to whatever, make it through his day, then whatever. That ain't me. But I just want to spend more time with my family and do more traveling. And what's weird is I've had both the best and worst year at the same time, because I was best at helping clients, but also worst at helping my own fucking family. Right. Because I wasn't able to break up my day into, here's my take kids to work or take my kids to school. Here's me work time. Here's me wife time. Be a different person. Be the person. Husband is a word. Be that word. Look it up. Look up the definition of husband. your kids know your dad. The kids know you're disciplinarian or regulator, whatever you want to call it. But you have to regulate yourself and be able to uh, spend time, separate time, have wife time, and go on dates often. Have tough conversations. Be that dance partner that you guys are doing that thing together, and you're like, hey, let's do these things together. Let's go to the gym together. Let's teach kids to swim together. Let's take the dog on walks together. Let's walk together. You have to be able to do those things, and I was failing at it, even though I got the same time frame that Brandon does and that other people out there do. And those 20%ers who are doing it well, they're dance partners.
Mm-hmm.
Working on that.
And I think that everything that you're talking about, I think the component that we have to look at is the values. When you look at somebody like a Goggins, right? What does he value? Be the most elite human being on the face of the fucking planet, to be able to run 100 miles. That's what he values. And we all face finite resources, finite energy, finite time. And so he's going to say, because of what I value, I'm going to funnel a ton of time toward physical conditioning and, doing some encouraging speeches and telling people that they're lazy and that they need to be better. That's what he values. That's what he does. Go back to your example of the personal trainer telling you to stop eating cake. If I look at that and I'm like, well, what do I value? I want to look really good on the beach, or I want to eat cake. If I'm honest, I value the cake more. So I'm gonna eat the cake. But my values allow for that. That's what's more important to me. Now, if they put it as, hey, do you want to eat more cake, or do you want to live to see your daughters get married and see your kids graduate? Okay, maybe I'll lay the fucking cake down. But I don't care about abs anymore. That ship's done sailed. But when you look at what you value, that allows you to dedicate your time in accordance with those values. It sounds like you and I probably have similar values in a lot of ways. And so if we're really honest with ourselves and say, what do I value? I value faith, family, freedom. What am I doing in my life, in my day-to-day? How am I devoting my time and allocating all my resources, time, energy, and money to reflect those values? If I say my values are this, but my time, energy, and resources aren't matching up with it, I got some soul searching to do. When I identify what my values are, that's where I go to try to find that balance. Am I giving enough time to my wife? Am I going on dates? Am I telling her how much I appreciate her? Am I imparting wisdom to my kids? Am I sitting down and talking to them about what it takes to be a man or to be a woman? Or, am I spending time with my family? Am I spending time with my clients? Are my actions adding up to the values that I say I have? If not, well, either my values aren't what I think they are, or my day-to-day is out of balance and I need to tweak that. Right?
Oh, yeah. I'm glad you said it that way, because it reminded me of my kids and I went to eat at one of those hibachi grills not too long ago. And, I like you're probably like me. You like to sit where you can see things.
Yeah.
And no kidding, I'm sitting in the same chair as, or same seat. This guy's going to cook right here next to us. And I'm at the elbow, and there's another guy over here, and he's at the elbow, and he's talking to his wife and I guess mother-in-law or something like this. And they never really talked to us, but it was quiet. It was like no rush, like after lunch rush, before the dinner rush. And just my kids said, hey, we want to go to the hibachi place. Okay, let's go. So we're sitting there, and this guy looks over his wife, girlfriend, I don't know. He's older than me. And I hear him being thankful. And he's like, hey, I just want you to know, honey, you're doing great stuff. And I just really appreciate it. And I just really want you to always know that I really appreciate what you're doing. He didn't give any specifics. I didn't hear anything. But he was being, I was like, holy shit, man. Because when you open your eyes and ears to the things that you need to do, you're going to hear people saying that. And it's like, okay, that was a great example of a guy being, and he's a big old dude, man. I'm 5'6", and he's probably 6 foot something, 300-pound dude. I wouldn't want to mess with him. and he was just being really nice, put a hand on her, and she was like, oh, that's real sweet of you, and gave him great feedback. And it's stuff like that I failed to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm provider, all some other P's thrown around, I'm provider, I'm protector, because something that I haven't mentioned to Brandon yet, that my wife and I had some drama and trauma, if you want to call it that, within our first 2 years of marriage. And that's a hard time.
Yeah.
Within your first 2 years of marriage, that's a hard time for that to happen. It was like the end of year one of us even being together. And oh man, and I just was in full protection mode and trying to provide and all that kind of stuff. And just, I wasn't some other tease that I need to be. I wasn't tender enough and taking the time to appreciate her and take her out on date nights, stuff like that. And I wasn't enough of that romance, you know. I wasn't boyfriend at the time. You know, you gotta always be that good dance partner. And I failed, and I thankfully have, through my recent shock and awe for myself, I have unfucked that and figured it out, and I am change. So that's all you gotta do. I would say I highly recommend figuring this out before, like I did. But again, I'm hard headed, and I needed some alone time to think it over, and took a couple of weeks in Destin, Florida, to do it. But when I finally stopped hearing other voices and could just control what was around me, I was like, shit, this is stupid. And I like to run. So running for me is I don't call it therapeutic, but it's a way for me to just listen to myself, listen to our Father. And I just was able to run multiple miles at a time every day. And I just finally was like, what the fuck am I doing? What am I doing here? And I just drove 12 straight hours back and was like, hey, I'm heading back, and let's fucking do the right thing.
Yeah. And I wouldn't discredit running being therapeutic. You said you don't know if you would call it therapy. Hell, I'd call it therapy, just because I provide classic psychotherapy or cognitive behavioral therapy, which has its own benefits. Doesn't mean that these other things aren't therapeutic. Running can be very therapeutic. Not for me so much, but for some people, absolutely. Going out shooting can be therapeutic. Running can be therapeutic. Working outside, building things, woodworking, barbecue, fishing, hunting. Pick your thing. Just because it doesn't labeled therapy, just because a health insurance plan is not going to reimburse it, doesn't mean it's not therapeutic. Actually, I love these shirts or coffee mugs. Have you ever seen it's a silhouette with really tight grouping? It says, I participate in group therapy or something like that. Love that shit.
Yeah, that's nice.
I take no offense to that whatsoever. But yeah, everybody's going to find that thing that works for them. It's beneficial for their psyche, for their soul. That you got to take care of yourself. If running does it, by all means, incorporate that.
That's good stuff. Yeah, and you're right. That's what I tell people too, is do whatever your thing is. Go, like, I'm not a guy who's going to go sit in a deer stand, but I get it. You have to have man time and also like alone man time. Yeah. And you just have to give yourself whatever you need to get that frequency and tuning fork and get it in alignment. Or actually get yourself in alignment. You're the one who's out of alignment with our Father. So I would recommend everybody go do their thing.
And going back to what you're talking about, being a good dance partner, I love that. And I love that imagery and that terminology. You talk about that guy that was giving encouragement to his wife. When you're close with your dance partner, you can pick up on what they need when they need it. And also, depending on who you're with and what their personality type is, I think that allows for both of you to take care of yourselves in relation to what the other party needs. One of the things that I know that we did, went through some, I guess, adjustments. We got 5 kids, a couple of them are special needs. We live on 10 acres. There's a lot of responsibilities out there. Going off and doing something that takes 3, 4, 5 hours, like playing golf, doesn't really fit into our lifestyle. But you do have to take care of yourself. You need some alone time. Doing things kind of close to the house. I barbecue. I can do that right there. If my wife or my kids need me, I'm right there. I like to go get out on the tractor, do some work outside. If they need me, I'm right there. I'm not so far removed from them, but that doesn't mean I don't need time. I just have made some adjustments to make that work with our lifestyle. I think everybody has to figure that out.
So what's your main focus?
In business, in life,
I'll let you answer that one. Go ahead.
So I'm a believer. Main focus is Christ Jesus. That is the primary focus of all things, or it should be. It's the intent. Do I always get that right? No, absolutely not. But devotion to the Savior, and then from there, the family that He has given us. I think my wife is first, then the kids, and then from there, my business, my clients. They're more than just something that allows for financial gain. They're more than something that just allows for provision to my family, but that is a piece of it. Um, but I think most of my clients are going to understand that they don't rank above my family and they don't rank above my God. I think all those things have to be in line and in order. Ultimately, I think the chief end of man, not to go too deep theologically, but like as I am, is to glorify God. We were created by Him, we serve Him, and ultimately everything that we do brings glory to God. We bring glory to God in the way that we love our wives, in the way that we serve our kids, the way that we live our lives and go about our jobs and work and interact with other people. Love God, love people is the whole summation of the laws, as Jesus put it. So ultimately, if I'm doing life right, which I never am, by the way, bring glory to God. But fortunately, I don't have to do it right. He's going to bring glory to Himself, and He's going to use me to do that. But ultimately, that's the goal. And anything and everything that happens as a byproduct of that, I get to enjoy. And that's a blessing.
I like that my pastor said a couple weeks ago, we was talking about joy, and the joy and the word joyous is in the Bible a lot. And just that it's so intentionally placed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think a lot of us, it's easy to get angry. It's easy to, well, I got to take the dog on a walk in the rainstorm or whatever, but like get some joy out of things, and that and do things joyously. And I like when I get to go hand my business card out to a veteran and know that I'm there to help, that I can legitimately help them. And it's not going to make everything all better, but it's going to make it at least right. The contract that they signed with the government says the government owes you money. It's just paperwork after that. And I know that I get to help deliver that to them and with them and enjoy the ride. And so I'm being intentional when I'm saying it this way, that I'm finding a lot more joy in just, again, by slowing down and just enjoying it, being grateful for the day and thankful for the day, and thanking the people I'm chatting with and stuff. So it's such a blast to be able to do this, and yeah, so I'm enjoying it.
And there's a guy talking about joy and enjoyment. I don't know if I don't know much about your denomination or the specific religious beliefs. We don't necessarily have to get into that, but there's a guy named John Piper, a Baptist pastor and author, and he wrote a book years and years ago called Desiring God: Confessions of a Christian Hedonist, and basically saying that we are uh, most joyful when we are uh, serving Him and living in accordance to what He created us to do. We are designed to experience joy, but our happiness isn't paramount. It's not the top thing. But because we're designed to serve and to glorify God, that brings us enjoyment. Anytime that we're doing anything for ourselves to the neglect of glorifying God, we're operating outside of our design parameters, and we're not going to be fulfilled and enjoy life. But when we look at that enjoyment, um, when we get our values and our priorities really straight, what does God want from us? We're going to enjoy that more. And so when you look at, for instance, um, serving your family and taking care of them and loving your wife properly, I think that brings us joy.
I agree. All good points.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we're done. Well, bye.
Agree with that, right? Now, not to completely shift gears, we maybe went into a little bit uncharted watershed, but I'm curious about. I'm service connected disabled as well. 70% for PTSD. I recently dropped some paperwork to add some physical conditions, and I really love, from what I know about what you're doing, you're helping a lot of guys navigate the VA and that whole quagmire to try to get what they're entitled to. Um, I talk to guys a lot in therapy practice, and they probably think I'm getting some kind of kickback or commission off of their disability as much as I try to preach it to them. But I think they're entitled to that. And a lot of people have sort of stigma, especially when we're talking about disability. Well, I'm okay. And one of the most common things I hear from people all the time, whether they were a 92 Yankee, whether they're an admin guy, supply guy, or whether they were a high level operator, almost everybody that I talk to at any level is going to say, well, I know other guys that had it worse than me. I guess that's maybe just part of the veteran mindset, whether they're trying to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. They're trying to be resilient, which is a great thing. I think it's part of the veteran mentality, but not to the point that they're sacrificing themselves. And so helping people overcome that stigma that they're not entitled or that they don't deserve or that other people are more deserving, or even worse, that they feel like they're taking money out of the pockets of the deserving veterans. You work with people on that and help them work through that kind of mindset.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And you're 100% right there that, so let me separate healthcare versus claim.
Yeah.
Healthcare is the majority of what you just talked about, that like pills, doctors, stuff like that. Claim. So if you go back to when you sign your contract with the government, Uncle Sam said, I'm going to drive you like a rental car, and all you got to do is some paperwork later and I'll pay you. That's what I help out with is paperwork. The reason why there's a big check over here on the left side of me is that you guys have all earned that check. It's your check. I got my check. I'm at 100% for mental health alone. I just got increased to that over the past calendar year, and I can talk about that too. I'm at 480 human math points, and I help my clients get to 500. That's one of my main goals. My actually number one goal, even though it's number 4, is to get you guys to 500 human math points on your e-benefits. Because if that happens, or as that happens, it's going to do the other things. You're going to be 100% like me on your e-benefits. You'll be permanent in total. Your body part list will reflect you better as a human on your e-benefits. And by getting over 500, you're also going to have all your money rather, is in your pocket at the right time for yourself and your family. And there's 3 levels of money. There's right now money, there's mid-range money for your kids in college, and then there's long-term death benefit money that I help you guys out with. And it's just fucking paperwork. And you guys out there feel, I'm glad Brandon brought this up, you guys feel, and the government wants you to feel, let me say it that way, the government is not your friend. It may not be your enemy, but they're not your fucking friend. They are hiding from you. And I can show you the different rocks that they're under. You've already heard me talk about property taxes and kids' college, all this kind of stuff. There's state level money for your kids in college, federal level money called Chapter 35. There's voc rehab, which is now called VRE. I could go on for days. So, but your money is always on the other side of compliant paperwork, and the government wants you to feel this massive confusion of the elephant. Where do I start eating this elephant? Because that is a very vague process. Well, I've been eating this elephant for 10 years. It's got me jack fucking shit. Or it took me 7 years to get to 100%. Well, you're still not done. What I've done is been able to figure out in a very linear fashion. So rather than eating an elephant, what you're doing is walking a one-rope bridge. What do you do on a one-rope bridge? You start on one side of the river, and you only get one footstep at a time. And again, there's some yes and in here too. Yes, you qualify for things like SMCS and CRSC, and for some people out there, CRSC, more money. And yes, when you're 100% like I am, your student loans get wiped off. Most of you guys don't know that. Yep. I've got 2 master's degrees, almost $200,000 worth of student loans wiped off my record. And that's not because of my, quote, disability. It's not disability, folks. If you look it up, what were the terms before it was called disability? Compensation and pension. When it was first created, compensation and pension. When you go to the VA, they say CMP exam. What's that stand for? Compensation and pension exam. It's not a disability exam. The government is playing mindfuck games with you. And so, yes, I help unfuck their mind and go, yeah, this is your money. I've had clients who've done 3 months in service. I've had Vietnam era clients. I've had, oh my God, people who were drafted. It's insane to even say that. I've had special operators all the way up to Delta dudes that are my clients, at least 4 or 5 Delta guys that are my clients. It would shock you who I've got, 1-star, 2-star generals, 3-star generals. And why do they fucking need my help? Because the government's stealing from them just as much as fucking E2 Snuffy. You guys have all earned your money. It's yours, and you guys, the government leans on you that you're the silent professional who's just going to eat a fucking shit sandwich for the rest of your life. But let me say one more thing to mindset. My old clients would tell me to tell you guys, get this shit done early. My 50, 60, dare I say 70-year-old clients out there, they go, holy crap, Albert, tell those 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, get it done, get it done. This is your money. It's been your money the whole fucking time. And it is use or lose. Time is the ultimate enemy. So if you think something is costing you, imagine what's costing you to do it wrong. The worst story that I've ever had to say to somebody is a woman came to me and had gone in and out of, for 10 years of a little claim, a little appeal, a little claim, a little appeal. And 10 years later, she's still not 100% like me. She was still like 90. I was like, oh, I'm going to say this with love, lady. I can do more in 10 months with you than you've done in 10 years of doing this, whatever the hell you're doing. The VA loves people like you because the VA wants you to just go away. And unfortunately, that mostly means stealing your money until you shoot yourself in the fucking head.
Mm.
That's why I purposely call this the Fulfilled Veteran Project.
Yeah.
I put a lot of effort in there. And these are my 3 standards of I want to increase your predictability, your profitability, and your accountability. I'm out in front of you guys all the time. I've got hours of videos, hours of I do what I call baseball and batting practices every week. I'm out in front of you guys, and I have been and will continue to be. I've been doing it 6 years, and I'm happier now than I've ever been before at helping you guys because I know who I am, I know who you are, and I know the government's not getting any better. So I'm here to help, happy to help, and I'm happy to keep answering Brandon's questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I appreciate what you're doing as far as dealing with some of the stigma over the terminology disability and some of the mindset that people have, like they're either not entitled or not deserving or they're taken from somebody else or whatever. I was talking to a new client last week, and this dude did 23 years Army. He was SF, did all kinds of cool high-speed shit. We talked about that for about an hour. Usually my sessions run about 45 to 50 minutes. And dude was rated like 40% after 23 years in special forces. There's no fucking way. And he was convinced. He said, well, I don't have PTSD. I didn't even fight him on that just yet, but I think he's kind of wrong. But he's talking about all these other things and other people that were worse off than him. I said, look, dude, I don't want to talk bad on anybody's service. Everybody that signed the dotted line, everybody has value in what they did. But just kind of for comparison, you were 23 years special forces. You did all this stuff that we just finished talking about. I got a buddy who's also a therapist. And like I said, there's few and far between that are prior service veterans and also licensed therapists. There's not that many of us, but I got a buddy that is this therapist. And we were talking, he's the one that kind of talked me into going out after benefits. One of the things that he had said was, well, yeah, I know you can function. You're still got your wits about you. You've got a brain. Your body works ish. He said, but let me ask you, is your brain where it would have been if you had never served? Well, no, not even close. Is your body where it would have been if you hadn't served? No, not even close. He said, well, the government owes you for that. I said, okay, that makes sense to me. But I told him this guy that had this passed this wisdom to me, he's rated 100% total and permanent. And he did like 15 years as a recruiter. He had a deployment early on, but 15 of his years in the military was as a recruiter. You did 23 in special forces. You think he deserves 100% and you really only deserve 40? He's like, yeah, that doesn't really add up to me. Oh, no, it shouldn't. So he's going to start looking into.
Yeah, send him my way because there's my first retired Green Beret. He was on the same boat. He said he was 30% for mental health. And after I briefed him, I was like, yeah, this is what he qualifies 100% on mental health and these other physical body parts, stuff like that. And he said, Albert, great brief. Appreciate you. And he said, I knew I was getting fucked by Uncle Sam. I just didn't know I was getting dry fucked. but he's now 100% and all that kind of stuff. That's all I do is, like I said, get you guys over 500 human math points, let all this land where it should. And I've even taken veterans off of to clear the area. If any veteran out there is thinking, well, unemployable or I'm on unemployable. Nope. You can make as much money, own guns. I mean, my clients are FBI, CIA, DEA, Border Patrol, all the Apache dudes over in Qatar, those dudes are mine. People who fly, the royal family is big. Do they have Americans flying those dudes around? Are some of my clients? Yep. All the guys in Costa Rica doing drug interdiction, air crews and ground crews down there, mine. Another border patrol guy just today, mine. Yep.
So a lot of people think that they're limited, they're going to lose security clearance, or they're going to be limited on what they can earn, or they're not going to have
tons of pilots. And actually, a Blue Angels of number 7 Blue Angel from the early 90s. Yeah. He's mine. And a lot of your airline pilots are mine. Because now I will say it this way for you airline pilots or anybody who wants to be a pilot, that the FAA is being a dick. I got it. So we don't do mental health right now. But even if you are service connected for mental health and you're a pilot, the veterans who are getting in trouble, the reason why they're getting in trouble is because they're lying to the FAA, which I don't want to get too teachy, but with every government entity, there's their own level of standards, right? So let's say just the Army PT test. There's male standards, there's female standards. Very same in the VA versus the VA quote disability versus FAA standard. So let me tell you this. Let me really reduce your anxiety or concern rather with, if I aim for mental health, what does that do? So mental health, the VA weighs and pays based off of how many titles do you have. Now, I set my clients up for success. Yes, I want you, even if you didn't go to combat, you did what the VA calls combat modalities. Did you carry people? Did you shoot guns? Did you have a helmet on? Did you have to drill? Push-ups, sit-ups, buddy carries? Yep. Okay. Those are combat modalities. Normal human college kids don't do that. Your manager of your local Piggly Wiggly doesn't do that for what they do. They're carrying watermelons around. So you do combat modalities. Now, I do want to make sure that my clients are squared away for paperwork because there's something out there called CRSC, Combat Related Special Compensation. That's for currently retired and medically retired people. I'm not retired, but I want to make sure that my paperwork for myself and my clients are squared away so that when the VA goes 5-10 years from now, hey, you know what? Those guys went through a lot of shit too. Those people that we drafted back in Vietnam, they went through a lot of shit. Their families owed a lot of money. We should probably pay them. Hey, what about those Gulf War people who are only in a 90-hour war? What about those GWAT dudes? What about them that we wrangled them around for fucking 20 years or whatever? And maybe we should pay them what they actually are worth, what they signed up for. So I just want to make sure your paperwork's squared away. Now, I want you to go with me on this because PTSD related combat is going to be the number one title. I call them titles. Just because you have a thing, a title, anxiety, doesn't mean that you are 100% based off of that one word, anxiety. Oh my God, my anxiety is so bad I can't even. No. Do you have, let's say, these 8 or 10 titles? PTSD related combat. Next line item. Check it off. Yep. Move on to the next one. Anxieties means you have a high. Yep. A low. Depression. Okay. And there's good days and bad days, right? Even in one day, you can have a great day and your dog shits on the carpet. And you're like, crap. My day just went from high to a low. So you have highs and lows. Doesn't mean you're bipolar. I'm not diagnosing people. I'm not a medical guy. I'm just talking about paperwork. Hey, how about chronic sleep issues? Any veteran out there sleep the way you want to? Fuck no.
About 98.5% last I checked.
Yeah. Check the box. Move on. You're just checking the box. It's just like a claim for your car. If your car gets a hailstorm hits it, it's dented and dinged. You're just annotating those different line items. And that's it. So that's what I help you guys through. And just, it doesn't have to be the deep, dark stuff. These things happen often. So chronic sleep issues is an often thing. Do you always have your head on a swivel? That's a thing. Are you the calm within the chaos? That's a thing. And this is way easier to be, quote, diagnosed for than what you think it is as far as paperwork for the VA. Again, that's VA standard. FAA standard, because I don't know about you guys, but I want a pilot who's gonna unfuck the situation. The FAA is a little weary right now. They're government agency talking to another government agency in order to scare veterans off. That's my take on it from my 6+ years of experience doing this and being a pilot myself, or historically pilot. And anyhow, but it doesn't mean that you've got PTSD so bad you're sucking your thumb in the corner. That's not what that means. That's not what the VA pays for, by the way. So I went from 0% up to 100 on mental health in the past year because I had the titles and I knew what I was aiming for when I chatted with my woman who did the paperwork on me, the write up on me. And how did I go from 0 to 100? Well, I was at 10 for a while, and then the VA reduced me at some point in a period of time. I don't know when. They didn't tell me. And I just went back to my psychiatrist. That's what the VA requires. I went to my psychiatrist and I said, hey, I found out that I qualify for what's called SMCS, which is $500, about $500 more a month. I, as a dad of, or a family of 5 kids and a wife, I receive $428 more a month. I am not retired. $428 more a month, and it took about 10 months to do this. So about 10 months worth of back pay, about $4,000. And I went from 0 to 100 in one fell swoop. And all she did was annotate my titles, and she gave a little bit extra clarity for some things, like chronic sleep issue that I didn't really need any additional information. But like the VA will use harsh titles, something like I'm thinking of 2 things at once, but like the head on a swivel is more of like paranoia. No, it's not. I mean, you're aware. They'll try to say hypervigilance. No, I'm aware. I'm aware. And so I sit in a certain place and head on a swivel, and I'm always ready to go in. The VA would call that panic attacks, near continuous panic attack. That you're always at the ready. So if my house catches on fire, I'm sorry, Brandon, I'm out, brother. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. I'm going to be like, bye, my house is on fire. I'm going to go put it out. So calm within the chaos is another one. And the VA calls it flattened emotion. So stuff like that. And the VA tries to overkill on the title, get you scared. But thankfully I was able to chat with I'll tell you guys this quick story because that's what I do. But I was able to chat with my psychiatrist, and she said, Albert, I'm hearing you. You're worth this money. Albert, I want to help you with this. And you told me these things to get started. I'm going to talk to you about this. I'm going to do my evaluation. If in the course of us chatting together, we're not on the same page, let's make sure that we are before we walk out. Okay, great. And we were. I sat back, listened to what she had to say, and she's like, yep. Maybe not, maybe Albert, this is my definition of this thing. Maybe you don't qualify for that. Okay. 2 months later, after filing my claim, and I didn't even get a call from the VA, 2 months later, all of a sudden, all in one day, my wife goes, hey, did something good news happen? And I was like, I don't know, what is it? And she's like, well, there's a letter here, and also our bank account has increased in the same day. And I was like, oh shit, that's pretty rare. So, but sure enough, went from 0 to 100 and got $428 more a month. And yeah, and all you guys qualify for it. So it's not difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that you brought up that the VA uses these kind of scare terms, and I'm sure some of that is intentional on the VA. Maybe a lot of that's intentional on the VA, and some of that is them pulling from diagnostic language that, let's just call it what it is. When we look at the DSM-5, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual that outlines all these different criteria for what constitutes a mental disorder, that's created by a board of psychiatrists. They sit down, they vote. The vast majority of them are going to be civilians that have absolutely no basis for understanding for what we go through and our mindset and our experiences. So when they identify something like hypervigilance, they have a very different construct in their brain versus what we would call hypervigilance. If we're aware, right, we're situationally aware, they're probably going to call that hypervigilance. We understand what hypervigilance is, but our scale for what would constitute hypervigilance is like way off the charts compared to what they're thinking. If we're sitting with our backs to a wall and we're watching a door and we're scanning a room, most of us are running that in the background. That doesn't even occur to us. That's just second nature. It's what we do. A psychiatrist is going to look at that and say, well, you're not wired right. There's something going on there. No, we're good. But, they're going to call that something because it's weird to them. It's not quote unquote normal. Normal is the guy that can sit completely oblivious to the world and not realize if an armed gunman comes to the door. It's stupid, but quote unquote normal. And so when some of us are like, well, no, I'm able to function, you have to kind of adjust your scale. What is this group of psychiatrists calling hypervigilance? What is this group of psychiatrists calling social isolation? What is this group of psychiatrists calling flattened affect. We're okay with that. We may be able to function, but we need to take into consideration what they're calling versus what we're calling. And on the other end of it, where I kind of come in, if a veteran says they're hypervigilant, they're talking about something way off the scale that some psychiatrists probably never even conceptualized, but it does exist. If somebody is experiencing symptomology to the point that they're actually distressed, and we know that happens too, we get anxious, we get hypervigilant, we socially isolate, we self-medicate, substance abuse, things like that. If the vet says, "Hey, I've got an issue," then I can come in and say, "Okay, let's work on that. Let's dial it down." Hypervigilance is a great example that I work with people a lot. And I think where a lot of civilian therapists kind of get this wrong is they want to just kind of extract it. They want to exercise that demon and get it out. Well, that's very distressing for people that have learned to have that skill set as a survival technique. If I've developed vigilance and it's hammered into me that vigilance is a good thing, and to a large degree, vigilance is the reason I'm here and alive and still kicking, you're not going to tell me that I got to get rid of that. But if I can kind of reason with a vet and say, okay, here's hypervigilance, you're on a 10 and you're like in your house, the doors are locked and you've got 9 guns within arm's length, you probably don't need to be on a 10. We can probably dial it down. I can get you back to a point that is a healthy level of vigilance that you would be comfortable with and you don't feel disarmed, versus being so amped up that doesn't really fit the situation. There are times where we need to be amped up. We know that. But the vast majority of time, we don't need to. And I think a lot of us don't fully register that change in circumstance. Like we're not on the streets of Baghdad in 2007 or in Ramadi or wherever. We're in a very different circumstance, and we need to learn, not switch, dial, not switch. I don't want to turn this off. I need it. It's a life-saving kind of skill that I've developed, but I do want to think in terms of a switch, a dial. I don't need it on 10. Maybe if I'm at home in a safe neighborhood with self-protection and locks on the doors and alarm systems, maybe I can dial that down to like a 4 and be comfortable with that. And that's where I end up helping a lot of veterans deal with the PTSD and the after effects of trying to reintegrate into this different circumstance that we're in these days.
Tell me what your thoughts are on this. I think a lot of these guys and gals out there, this is why I helped them with their empire, is because they, myself included, don't want to be in a box. You don't want to be in a cubicle, and it sounds like I like books and I like school. I don't. I had to live off student loans. I was trying to get. I like healthcare and stuff, and I want to be around people and continue helping. And I was just getting told no, and no, you don't have this master's, you don't have that degree, you don't have this certificate, and these letters after your name. So I had to go get letters. I got more letters after my name. It's so fucking stupid. But the only one that matters to me is my disabled veteran-owned business stuff. Mm-hmm. So, and I get to wear my PJs now. I call it my PJs. I get to wear shorts and t-shirt and talk to the deadliest humans on earth every single day. It's so fucking cool, man. But that's what I've noticed for my clients, is that they're just really trying to push their passion forwards, and they don't know how, because most of the time they don't have a harmony between a guy like Brandon and a guy like me. Like the money and making sure that they're in the right mental state, and they're harmonizing, being a good dance partner and teammate for the family, and especially their wife, and making sure that they're leading their household in the right way, being a good teammate and not just barking orders. So that's what I really found, and that's why I'm glad that I think it's divine intervention that Brandon and I are chatting today. And but yeah, I think that these guys just really want to get out there and be a business owner and just help and be. It could be small beard oil, something like you talk about smoking meats and stuff. I should have worn my other shirt then. I need to go get my other shirt that says I'd smoke that on it. Because I've got the full outdoor kitchen set up, man. I've got everything that's under God's green earth. I've got the Weber grill. I got the smoker. I got let's see what else. Traeger's got a flat top. I got one of those babies out there. And what else we got out there? And other kind of like wood fire grills and stuff, and a fire pit off to the side. I'm that guy. And,
playground.
Oh man, I'm not getting a whole hog or whatever yet, but
I want to one of these days. But
it sounds delicious.
It does.
But yeah, man, I'm the guy that cooks meat for everybody around the neighborhood, and I want to do more of that, and I want to spend more. That's why I've got force multipliers to help onboard, because I want to spend more of my time. I've done a lot of one-to-one. Now I need to do more one-to-many. And that's what I'm doing more of, one-to-many. I can talk to 100 people in a room who are my clients, and it can be recorded and shared with other clients. I don't need to talk to 100 people one-on-one. That's not my thing anymore. And I've gotten good enough and big enough and whatever enough to confident enough to do that, and be able to have my me time and my meat time too, to put some ribs on there and make some stuff. I mean, I like to have, with my neighbor, I like to have a coffee in the morning, and then we get back together at the end of the day and smoke some cigars, stuff like that, especially on good days. And we're in Indiana, so keep that in mind, that as long as the Michigan wind blows, and it's good, but if it's the Kentucky wind, it's fucking humid. And we have to pivot, but I mean, guys, Brandon, go with me. We've got DoorDash. We can do anything we want. I was talking to a woman just this weekend, so I think, again, divine intervention on this conversation. But she's a young lady who knew a lot about beers, and she's working at this bar, and she was so passionate about it. And she's in her earlier 20s, and wanting to go. I won't say hitchhike, but backpacking. There's the right term. Backpacking across Europe, and I said, "Man, you need to go do that." It took me forever to get my passport, but I have no stamps on my passport. I'm in my 40s. I'm 44. And I said, I did more before my mid-20s, a 10-year period from 18 to 28. I did more in that 10-year period, or let's say 10 years of Army life. I would say around the world twice, kind of a thing, but I've been around a lot of places. There would be a lot more stamps on my passport, but I have no stamps on my passport. I haven't done jack fucking shit in the past 10 years. Let's give a little forgiveness and grace for COVID. But man, I would just like to go do more stuff with me and my family, and we've had really great experiences with. Even though we've got 5 kids, we had a foreign exchange student a couple of years ago from Switzerland, so we called her Swister. That was a blast. And then the next year, which was last year, we had a young lady from Spain, and now we're taking a couple of years off just to breathe again. But it was a blast, and just opened your eyes up to the world is big, and you're just go fucking do something. Just do anything, whether it's something local, go ride a motorcycle, go ride a bicycle, go do fucking something. I think, honestly, last thought, Brandon, is human interaction is the best medicine. Whether it's your family, your faith, all the above, say yes. Just take the dog for a walk, sit on the front porch, chat with your fucking neighbor. I don't know, do something, and do something every day. Have human interaction, and I think that's the best medicine. Your thoughts? I'm not a medical provider. Don't sue me. Don't
do what?
I said, I'm not a medical provider. Don't sue me. This is water.
I don't sue you, but yeah, I agree with you that human interaction, and going back to some of our shared faith and theological beliefs there, I think we're created for communion with one another. I think that we are not operating within our design parameters if we're trying to completely isolate. Now, I do think that we all come in different shapes and sizes and personalities, and we all have different thresholds for that. I tend to be a little bit more introverted than some individuals. Some people tend to be a little bit more extroverted. And so my threshold might not require that I interact with people quite as often. There's a little interaction right here and along with working with my clients, that may fill me up for a while. I might not necessarily have to have a whole lot real soon, but for some people, they need that more often. But the fact of the matter is, everybody needs it. And so if somebody says, they're good with this amount, that's fine. Make sure you're getting that amount. If somebody says they need more, okay, that's fine too. Make sure you're getting that. But if you're completely shutting people out or isolating, I see this a lot of times as a byproduct of PTSD, whether it's veteran or responders or whoever else. That sort of social isolation is one of the classic symptoms, and it's hugely detrimental. I know that part of what's going on in their mind is it's distressing, it's frightening, it may even be perceived as threatening, but we have to overcome that because we have to interact with other people. Find people that are safe to you, find people that are trustworthy to you, and connect with those people within that threshold that you need. I agree with you 100%. Something that you were talking about earlier, kind of that entrepreneurial mindset, people that want to go out and build things and build empires. A lot of veterans that are like, and I love that. I occasionally will have people come in for mental health, and part of that is uh, what's important to them. They want to talk about building something, some company, some endeavor, some an entrepreneurial type venture. And I love talking to those guys because I just love that, I don't know, that mindset or that lifestyle. Working for yourself, I think, resonates with a lot of vets. I don't know what exactly it is about it, but knowing that you're directing things, you're taking responsibility and ownership for things, you're building something you can be proud of. I think that sits with a lot of people. Um, Something you said earlier about the lesson that you learned early on in Afghanistan about never accept no for an answer. Um, I like that, and I'll build off of that a little bit. Something I'd learned in Iraq when we were getting stood up. We were short on intel at that time. This was 2004, 2005, and Army had to switch gears post 9/11 because everything had gone signals and high speed and technology, and then we had to kind of go back to Stone Age and shift over to human intelligence. And there was such a shortage in that they were flooding that MOS and getting people into the field as quickly as they could. And so when I arrived at my first unit, um, it was skin and bones. I had a O1 company commander and an E5 first sergeant when I first showed up. And they stood up, they reactivated a unit that had been deactivated since Vietnam. They stood it up in January and they deployed it in September. Just ridiculous, insane turnaround. And when we deployed, we mostly operated 4-man teams. That was intelligence collection teams. A lot of them were led by E4 corporals that got their old stripes. They had come in with a college degree, so they were specialists, and turn around twice and now you're a corporal. Nobody knew what the hell we were doing, but we were meat eaters and we were hungry and we just hit the ground running and hard chargers. It got extended, so after 15 months, don't ask me how they calculate this shit. I don't really know, but they said that at the end of 15 months, we had collected more actionable intelligence that led to kill and or capture of bad guys than any intelligence unit since Vietnam. And I think the big part of how we did that is because we didn't know we couldn't. We weren't supposed to be able to do that. We had no idea that that was supposedly impossible, but we were that young, that naive, and that stupid that we didn't know we couldn't, so we just did. And for anybody getting started on uh, any type of entrepreneurial venture, I think that's a lesson: is don't let anybody tell you can't. Be sensitive to the wisdom of people know what they're talking about, and so listen to people, but don't be discouraged by those naysayers. Too many people are going to tell you can't do something just because they became bitter years ago.
Yeah, and I appreciate that last line there too. A lot of people are going to tell you no, and a lot of those people are going to be close to you. It's people
Yeah.
that you believe that they're going to just pat your bottom and tell you go do good things, but like that pat on the bottom doesn't really do you any good. I mean, I could talk to my mom every single day for an hour every day, but does that actually get it? Does that give me action items? No. It just thanks Albert, bye mom, love you. So you have to do action items. You have to whatever put out there on the board if you need to whiteboard, and those things are excellent. Or in your little daily Joe book of to-do list, and I call it ta-da. Oh, I've got a great idea. Or did I track down on that idea? What kind of logo do I need? What kind of name do I want to go with? Who's going to be my like a guy looked at my shirt the other day and he goes, oh shit, that's embroidered. That's nice. And I was like, yeah, man, I've been doing this a while. I want to make good first impressions with you guys. So even though I get to wear my PJs, at least they're nice. I mean, I'm going to be in this thing all day. So, but yeah, you just gotta say yes to yourself, and yes, that you're in my mind a tool in God's toolbox, and He wants you to go help those other people. Those other people want your help. It may be micro local. It may be something like when I first started doing this. No shit, the first month or two of me doing this was right when COVID was hitting. So I thought, oh, I'm gonna go do all these in-person veteran events and stuff here in Indiana because there's so many needs in Indiana and so many veterans out here. And COVID hit, and I just was already online. So I highly suggest you guys be online for because now things are moving so fast. Going back to Brandon's terminology there of the Stone Age, that man, if somebody is 10 podcasts, which I'm at like 20 on this one. It's a lot of work to get to 20. It's a lot of work to get to 20 podcasts, and it's being able to have a networking and staff or certain degrees and have an idea in mind, have a conversation in mind, be able to talk to someone. I don't think of this as interviewing. I don't have like questions around. I never look into people before I start talking to them. I just like to get to know them. I know we have a firm basis of things, and if somebody wants to be gutsy enough to talk to me, then we got shit to talk about, I'm sure. So that's all I do is leave it up to our faith. And we've already talked about some deep stuff. We haven't really dove into like politics, but like we talked about money stuff and emotional stuff and VA stuff and hard stuff, emotional things we've been through, combat things. So just do something. Listen to that tuning fork inside of you. Just get out there and do something.
Mhm.
I know we're coming up on almost an hour and a half in, and usually I didn't tell you this. I know I was forgetting something in my little pre-brief with you. That usually what we'll do is we'll go behind the scenes. So I'll just say, hey, here in about 10 or 20 minutes, I'll say, hey, we're going to go behind the scenes. We'll say bye to everybody. You and I won't know a difference, but they will. And we'll do some other behind the scenes stuff and chat for just a couple more minutes and
Yeah,
just
sure.
close out and stuff like that. But the reason why I do that, just so that everybody knows this, is one of my very first podcasts, again, learning curve, my very first podcast, I didn't say we're going behind the scenes and we just said, oh, goodbye. And I clicked end and stop recording. And the guy who was quiet the whole time goes, oh my God, Albert, that was so awesome. This coolest thing since sliced bread. And I was like, son of a bitch. That was not on recording. So we lost it. So I just keep recording until he and I are done. But anyway, just some fun stuff. Lesson learned. But well, let's talk about some other positive stuff. What are some other things that you think, some action items that veterans can do, not only in Texas and around the world, that can learn from our chat today or learn from our wisdom today?
That's a good question. I think that the biggest thing for a lot of vets is use the terminology, find your new mission. This applies maybe mostly to the early transition guys, the guys that are coming out of the military, but I've talked to guys that are 10, 15, 20, 30 years removed that never quite found that new mission. Everybody needs a purpose in life. We talked about what ultimately I thought purpose in life is, or what I think that the ultimate meaning is. And I do believe that firmly, but I don't try to indoctrinate anybody. I think everybody, individually speaking, has to find their own sense of what the purpose is, what their mission is, what they're going to get fulfillment from. And for somebody that doesn't have that new mission, it's just like a ship floating at sea. They have no direction. They have nothing that's really guiding them. And so whether they buy into my idea that glorifying God is ultimate, I think it's right, but they have to find their own. They have to figure out what is my sense of purpose, what is my reason for being. If they don't have that, they're probably going to remain unfulfilled. Figure out what that is, what are the values underneath it, and are the things that I'm doing relating to that value, ultimately to that sense of purpose that I say I have. That makes sense?
Yeah, and I'm living it every day, man. Like I just, you just gotta. It's hard to sometimes because you're gonna be told no. You're gonna be called things. If I had $1 billion in the bank right now, somebody would sue me for 20 billion. That's just the reality of today. So like President Trump's a great example of this. That yeah, you get out there in front, somebody's gonna fucking shoot at you. If you're over the target, you're gonna get fucking shot at. And social media, although it's good for us veterans to get out there, veterans are mean as shit to each other. And calling each other scammers and shit like that. You want to sue me? Go ahead. You want to investigate me? Go ahead. Because I'm a winner. I only come out on top. So I do this every day, and I do it with a smile and joy in my heart. And yeah, man, I love doing it. So just do whatever your thing is. If it's crafts or something, somebody wants to buy your shit. Honestly, why not? You could be the next big thing, or just do something small. Who gives a damn? As long as you're able to make money off of it and provide for your family, I think that's in us to serve. That just is so in us to serve others, and that even if it's our dance partner, just you got to be a good teammate before you can be a leader. Got to start your kitchen table with your wife first. Let it go out from there. I'm going to steal Brandon's line too. I'm not perfect. I'm not throwing stones. Trust me. I can't believe that my middle son had not heard that. I shared that with him yesterday, and we were walking around, and there's a movie out there. Oh God, what's it called? It's been out for a while, but oh God, Couples Retreat with Vince Vaughn, and they're making fun of each other. You glass house, me glass house, or whatever. And my wife and I speak to each other in movie quotes, and so I was explaining that to my son Brody. I was like, well, what that means is let the person without sin cast the first stone. And of course, he didn't know what cast meant. So I was like, okay, throw the first rock at the person. I'm probably going to say this fucked up, but it's like, okay, if everybody's got a rock and you're trying to throw stones at this lady, you got to be without sin to throw that rock. But I said, here's a paradox. He's a smart kid. I said, here's a paradox in this. If you throw that rock now, you are definitely a sinner. So would God even let that rock come out of your hand? It didn't. So, and he's like, oh, that's cool. Weird, fun story. So, but it's weird how the Bible will put you in those freaking, it'll lock you up in a good way. So that brings me to a point that I want to bounce off you. There's a book up here. It's called Pitch Anything. It is one of the great books, and I highly recommend anybody go and especially find it on like Audible stuff, because the guy who wrote it reads it, and he talks about framing. And there's multiple frames, but he talks about two main ones, and the ones I've more so adopted, that there's power frame and there's morality frame. And I think a lot of us Americans really struggle, especially veterans, with the difference of what is power versus what is moral. And so let me clarify. And it's out of this guy's book, so please go check it out. I have no tie to that dude at all, other than I just like it. But there's a cop has power. So a cop could pull me over. I got pulled over in Texas once in a piece of shit truck that could not do 90. And they said I was doing 90. And I was like, dude, come on, man. It's a 4-cylinder bullshit fucking S10 kind of thing. You couldn't drop it and it would go 90. So I got a ticket for doing 90 supposedly. And so he had power, even though I morally was correct.
Right.
I still had to pay the ticket. I still had to get out of the fucking shit so it wouldn't go on my record, whatever. I had to pay more and go to whatever, do other things so it wouldn't go on my record, because I was in college at the time trying to be an officer. So I had to do more work than that cop did. So he had the power. And so I work from morals. That's what I'm talking about. With if somebody gave me $1 billion today, somebody's going to sue me tomorrow because they have the power to. The government is powerful. The devil is powerful. I'm going to say positive, but you have God, so he's the ultimate power. The only way, as one of my marketing guys says, he says the new levels, new devils. So the closer you get to God, the more the devil shows up. Because the only way the devil can win is if you allow him to. If you give him that, dare I say, grace of take this from me. Because you're giving God's power to somebody else, or like letting the devil chip away at you or whatever. But not if you don't let it. Let me go back to military. If you know that your mission is to be over the target, you know also that you're going to get shot at when you get over the target. And that's clarifying that you are over that fucking target, that you're doing great things. So that's why every day now that I'm getting more clients and have more people, because we know this. Social media there's so many wolves out there on fucking social media and robots and stuff. Half of them probably are, more than half of them are fucking fake. But if I put a $10 billion hole in the VA's ass, they probably know about me by now. I'm the best in the world at what I do, and I love it because I can't be fucking bought. So I got morality over power. I'm not powerful. I'm 5'6" fucking nothing, and I wear my PJs and shorts every day. So yeah, you're seeing my knees every now and then. That is my knee, but I don't wield power. I've got God, so I've got morals. So if I die tomorrow and I'm a skin suit no longer, I know where I'm going. And that's why I just slow down and just be thankful every day. Hold hands with your kids and pray over your food.
Yeah.
That's all I can say on that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's our struggle, though. Every time you get, I'm going to just talk until Brandon figures out his point. But going back to power and morality, I think that we get sometimes so caught up in the weeds of like, well, if there's 10 fucking hoops I got to jump through, fuck this bullshit. And I would say maybe get a little deeper in bullshit before you say cut that, because I don't like school, but I had to get more schooling to do things and just be more direct with people. Just say, hey, I wanna ask this of you. I asked a Delta client of mine. I said, hey man, I know you know people. I'm trying to get in the room with some other folks to help me out with this book and get somebody bigger than me who has a bigger following than I do, because I need help to open up more. Like I didn't know who JD Vance was until Trump brought him on as VP select, and I was like, dude, who the fuck is this cat? But then Dan Bongino's liked him for a while, so I've listened to Dan Bongino almost every day, and I like him. I don't know a ton about him, and I'm like Dan Bongino. I put my faith in every. I have no heroes other than God, kind of a thing, and veterans are my people, and to a certain extent, like Brandon said, but like I'm just here to help.
Yeah.
I'm just one dude, man.
I remember where I was going to go, and it may even come across to you like it was just kind of a throwaway or a side note on something that you had said, because you hit it and kind of moved on to something else. But you were talking about service and how it's kind of ingrained in each of us to serve. It's just something that comes along with who we are, what we've been trained, what we've been indoctrinated with, and it's something that I think a lot of us are proud of. But that idea of service, when you talk about go out and build something, uh, I think that's part of the reason that a lot of these veteran-owned organizations are so sought after, because that desire to serve leads to very high-quality products and/or services. What you're doing, you've dedicated yourself to be the absolute best you can be, the best at what you do. That desire for service, but it's a mutually beneficial service. You're getting something in return from that. Nine Line Apparel, Grunt Style, Ranger Up, uh, Black Rifle Coffee, these guys aren't hurting right now. The guy that I served with, that's a company called Shell Shock CBD. These guys aren't hurting. They're doing well financially, but they're offering very quality service. So when people are out trying to figure out what they want to do, how they want to serve, make sure that you're also accounting for it doesn't have to be one sided. It doesn't have to be completely sacrificial service, which I think a lot of time there's time and place for that. That's a good thing. Nothing wrong with sacrificing for people. But there's nothing wrong if it can be mutually beneficial service. You offer a excellent quality or a product, and you are profiting for that. And that's capitalism 101. It's okay.
What's the Bible call it? Abundance.
Yeah.
I have an abundance mindset.
Nothing
Doesn't
wrong.
mean I need a Maserati, but
Right.
again, I get to choose to wear this as opposed to a suit and tie. I could choose to wear a suit and tie. That's a good news. That's what I call it. Like freedom. Money to me is freedom tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Do I get to do what I want to do?
Right.
Yep. That's it.
Yeah.
Freedom
it's
tickets.
A resource. We don't have to be in love with money. It doesn't have to be your God or your master, but it allows you the freedom to do what you want to do. It's a resource. There's nothing wrong with resources. But yeah, figure out how you want to serve people and make sure that whatever you're trying to get out of life, that's there too.
So since you've been doing this almost 10 years, what's the next 10 years look like, do you think, for you with crossing over to different states and stuff like that? I know since you're hitting a snag in Texas on 2-year issue, are there other states that you can get certified in or whatnot, start growing your empire there? And because I know, man, Florida is chock full, California also.
Yeah, and actually, Florida, easy to get a license. Send them a check, the background check. I think I could get a license in Florida probably by the end of the week if I wanted to. Part of the barrier for me is when I sit down with a client, I'm spending 45, 50 minutes, upwards to an hour with them. How many of those clients can I see in a week? And when I sit down with a client, it is completely invested emotionally in their life, and it takes a toll. People talk about some of the fatigue that can come, compassion fatigue, and it's a real thing. I mean, it almost sounds kind of wussy about the amount of work that you can do. I sit in a chair and I sip coffee and I chat with people. I mean, on the outside looking in, it's like, how hard is that? You should be able to do that 90 hours a week. But in reality, if you're really giving them the type of quality service, it takes a toll. Some therapists might do 25 clients a week. I think that's kind of low, but a lot of times they will call that full time. But if you're doing 40 plus, it takes a toll. I stay pretty regularly busy with 40 ish. And so if I were to open up to Florida, or I think North Carolina is another like easy license to get, or I think Ohio is another one that was a little bit harder. But there's a number of areas that I could get licensed fairly easily, or even if I didn't, once the compact opens up, I'll be able to serve anyone in that compact. I can't really take on any more clients. 8 million people in Texas. I think thereabout, something like that. There's plenty of clientele for me, whether they are civilians or veterans or other first responders. But what I am looking to do is to expand the number of therapists that I have, and then I will be able to serve more people. Um, I would like to be able to retain the services, contract with some other therapists who are also veterans. But here's the kind of paradox I find myself in. A lot of therapists who are also veterans, they're kind of cut from the same cloth than I am. Why they want to go work for somebody else? They exist. There's some out there, but a lot of them want to go stand up their own thing, and I support that. More power to them. Maybe some type of collaboration would be beneficial. But as I'm hiring other therapists, a lot of them are civilian, non-veteran, never served, never in the military or law enforcement, and I'm okay with that as long as they're sensitive to the population. I don't think that you have to be a veteran to help a veteran. It helps a shit ton, but you don't have to. But expanding the practice, hiring more therapists, more providers, and maybe increasing our online footprint is kind of on the horizon. I mean, I'm 40 years old. I could probably do this if God doesn't call me home. I could probably do this at least 30 more years, if not 40. Again, physically, it's not taxing. And I've always been that kind of guy that I got to look for the next thing. I am at a place in my career that a lot of people are kind of comfortable retiring at. If they build something to this size, they're like, okay, this is good. And I can't lay up here for 30 years. Yeah, I'm happy, I'm content, but I'm still ambitious. So I got to build something. I got to figure out how somehow to expand this and to reach more people. And I'll get there. I got some things some irons in the fire, some ideas in the works. Figure it out.
I'm surprised it's taken me so long to tell you this, but my son is wanting to go into psychology.
Nice.
He's been through a lot, and his, not to get too deep in his details, but he's kid of divorce, and his mom lives in Texas and all that kind of stuff. And there was a really helpful therapist or family counselor who helped. She's really good, which usually court-appointed people are not great. And
Sure.
but she's really good out of San Antonio area, something like that. So shout out to Allison, good shit lady. And but yeah, so I was like, man, I need to make sure I mention that to both you live and Liam. Make sure I tell Liam about that, and he maybe will take the reins over from you soon. I'll have to get him in the military and shoot at him a little bit, But
You're gonna get him in.
I mean, look at all the veterans that are coming out, and you got GWAT era guys who, even GWAT era of a 20-year war that went to fucking shit, and oh my god, we've gone through so much weird stuff. This is probably the weird. I feel like we've got like Vietnam somehow condensed and then spun around and shook up, and somebody shit in it and then tried to feed it to us, and that's what at least the Afghanistan withdrawal. Not that Iraq was any better. But just like, what the flying, just the weird betrayal and all the money, and like nobody, let me say it this way. Vietnam folks weren't like portrayed as heroes. They came back and it was kind of quiet and whatever. You guys can argue with me all you want to on that. But I will say GWAT era people were, oh, well, this is now the global war on terror. So these guys are now the heroes and all this kind of stuff. It was Hollywoodized. It was propagandized. I think it's just a bunch of bullshit. But anyway,
Yeah.
At least I was there, and I was there to serve, and I saw under the hood, and I was like, man, even in Afghanistan, same thing. That I think I'm done. I'm done. This is, I mean, you guys you said you did 15 months. I did 13 months, and the guys that I deployed with had gone back to back to back. They did Katrina, they did medevac out of Katrina. Then they went and did 15 months in Iraq and had a kinetic time over there. They had a year off in Savannah, and then we were back over there doing 13 months. And these dudes were tore up, man. And that's burnout. It's burnout. That's exactly what it is. That's why I talk to my staff a lot about burnout. Is thankfully aviation industry talks about burnout because it just is. It's a fucking thing, and yeah, it's fucking nuts, man. And I'm just like you. I like that I'm able to, or at least able. I know you have to have 45 minutes to an hour with your clients to do what you do, and I'm thankful that in a certain way I don't have to take that amount of time so that I can do that. So I do understand your level of burnout, but my point back to owning your own calendar, and that's what's great about being an entrepreneur is that you can be like, you know what, I am the boss. It is my name on the door. I'm the one writing the checks, and here's what I am going to do, and here's what I'm not going to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Lord, take me with you wherever you want me to do. Am I in the right area here? Yep. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
it offers a lot of freedom. I think there's a lot of responsibility with it. And people that have that kind of entrepreneurial mindset, we own that. We love that. We want to take on the extra hours when we can, so we can have the freedom to say, you know what, I'm taking a 4-day weekend, drop of a hat, or I'm taking 2 weeks off at such and such time. I'm going with 10 buddies to on a bourbon trail tour in a few weeks because I can. Why not? I didn't have to ask anybody's permission for that. I didn't have to submit any kind of requests. I just told my clients, hey, I'm not scheduling people these days. Catch you when I get back. To me, that's totally worth all the extra responsibility and headaches of having it your own. I think it's worth so much more than it costs.
I agree with you. I appreciate that. I know we're coming up on our 2-hour mark here, so usually we do a little bit more behind the scenes. I think you and I've done a great job out in front of these guys and gals, and we do follow up too. So we'll make sure we get you back on as quickly as possible and often as possible to get your word out there and just make sure that we're keeping in touch with you and that kind of thing, and fairness of your calendar, of course, and your heart. But it's been a blast, man. So we'll do a little bit behind the scenes. But before we go, any kind of events coming up or anything that you want people to know about?
No events or anything, but my website, steadfasthealthwellness.com. If anybody's interested, looking for a therapist. If you are in Texas, happy to help you out. If you're not, give me a call anyway, and I'll try to help plug you in with somebody that can help you out in whatever state you're in.
Yeah, we'll put all your links and buttons and stuff in Nashville. They'll take care of that.
Cool.
Stuff. All right, gang. Well, let me see. I'm going to mark down the time at about 1:45. We're going to go behind the scenes. But yeah, we'll go ahead and cut it here. And like I said, guys, like, share, subscribe, all of our stuff. Now you know more about me and Brandon, what he's doing, what I'm doing, what we're doing together, and just be part of that. Be part of that. The human interaction is the best medicine. And I really do appreciate Brandon's time out here today, and appreciate you guys out there. And I don't want to even say I hope. I know this was amazingly helpful for he and I, and I know for you guys too. It's good shit. So see you guys on the next one. You guys have a good one out there.